Hey, sexy people, you are listening to the Living Better podcast, the podcast aimed at improving your life with tips, tricks, interviews, and much more. I am your host, Matt, and with my wife, Jodi, we will share a life experience and dig up the best information we can find on improving your day-to-day life. So let's get right into it, and as usual, thanks for listening. Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the podcast. Tonight we're going to talk about happiness and the concept of happiness. But before we start, this podcast is sponsored by the Sleep Monkey Premium Sleep Mask. If you're looking to improve your sleep, the Sleep Monkey Premium Sleep Mask is something I stumbled upon by trying different sleep masks with my wife. We were trying to improve our sleep, and after trying different design, different shape and size, and buying a bunch on Amazon, we finally encountered the sleep mask, which was truly amazing. Totally blocks the light and it improves your sleep by so much. It's incredible. So I would suggest you get a hand on one of these. You're going to buy it once and it's going to follow you everywhere for the rest of your life. So it's a truly amazing product and we believe in it. We use it. We're sponsored by the company after contacting them on how amazing it was and doing this podcast. So check it out and let us know what you think. So tonight we're going to talk about happiness, and I want to give you a bit of my ideas and what I've read in books and what I've noticed around happiness in today's life. I see that a lot of people are all striving to, find happiness, or they're looking for it. And what we have forgotten is that happiness resides inside each one of us. And if you don't believe me, just go back to when you were a child, or if you look at children around you. Children are always happy with nothing. When you're a child, you play in the forest, you're happy just looking at the sky, playing with rocks, doing hide and seek, or all sort of imaginary games with very little to almost nothing. And it doesn't matter, you're always happy. But as you go on in life, your perception of happiness becomes tainted by companies, by commercials, exposure to TV, exposure to other kids. Think that happiness is either the new Barbie or the new Nerf gun or the new Xbox or Nintendo. And then you see more and more kids that are not happy, are not content with their life, and they're at a very young age, they're always looking for what's next. And this is the society that we have become. It's a society based on, a corporation deciding what we have to do and government deciding what kind of ideas we have to follow. And they push that upon us. And what that ends up doing is that we actually forgot that we have happiness inside of us. And to me, happiness is the concept of just being okay with what is. Being okay with your own self, being okay just having a cup of coffee or taking a walk outside. Happiness is very basic and you don't require a lot, but as we age, we live in this illusion that we always need more. And this is what I want to talk about tonight, that happiness comes from our own perception of labeling what it is. And we constantly change that and we never achieve happiness because we're chasing always something that will constantly change. So we're going to talk about a little story. So it's a little story of Mary. So Mary grows up as a child being happy with just playing with her friends and whatnot. And as she becomes a teenager, she starts being pushed by society and her parents for getting a job and getting out of the house and finding her own place. So Mary's new perception of happiness becomes that. So as she works and go to school and finishes her university degree or whatever it is, she jumps into life, defines happiness now by getting a good job and getting a house. So she works for that, finally gets a job and a decent condo, and now you would think that she'd be happy. But now Mary realized that this is not her new happiness. Her new happiness that she labeled is finding love. So now Mary goes out and about looking for love and ends up finding a guy. So now Mary's happy. So she thinks that this is her new happiness. But as it goes, this fades away, and the dopamine high she got from finding that guy and their beginnings being all passionate and totally all over each other fades. So now she's not sure if she's happy anymore with this guy. Nonetheless, society puts pressure on her and she believes that she needs to get married and have kids. So now she labels that as her new happiness. So she goes out to get married with this guy, and that provides a new joy of happiness, a big ceremony, everyone's there. And Mary's happy again. Then she goes on to having her first child, believing that this will provide her happiness because she has friends around that have children, and she felt pressured to get some, so she does that. Now she has her first child. But that's not good enough. Mary's not happy anymore with having one child because people are telling her that she needs two. So as she never adapted to even one child and the increased stress that it was providing and their finances, Mary goes on to have a second child and eventually a third child. And as she grows up and realizes that she's caught up in this routine and pattern of taking care of the children, she realizes that she's not happy anymore. So now her new happiness is trying to find excitement outside of a routine, because the routine she thought she wanted, now she doesn't want anymore. So she tries to go on trips and little getaways with her husband, as much as that provides a small joint of happiness while she gets her kids babysit. When she comes back, she falls back into the same routine. She gets tired, exhausted, doesn't know what to do, and she follows what most people do. She gets a divorce. Now she has a split guard, so she gets the kids 1 week out of 2, and now she's happy again because she can think about herself 1 week out of 2. So this is how she found balance to regain the happiness that she thought she lost. Now she gets a new boyfriend, starts all over again, dopamine high, she's all happy, and after a while that fades away. Then this guy dumps her. Her children grows up to be older. Mary believes that the children belong to her. That this is her children. What she forgot is that children are their own personality, their own people, and they belong to life and not to her. So they go out, they move to another country, they start their life, have girlfriends and spouses and husbands and kids and whatnot. Mary ends up being alone and grows old, not having her children visit her quite often, and she gets unhappy and dies that way. So this is a story, typical story of someone who chases happiness all their life and are never content with what they have. The problem with Mary in this story is that she based her happiness on all sort of external factors. She based her happiness on children. She based her happiness on having a husband, based her happiness on society, what make her believe she has to do. And that ended up causing the fact that she ends up alone, and we question all of that before she dies. So if we go to the story, you understand the concept I'm getting to. Mary was never happy with just what is, which was herself and her little life and what she would do. This is something that a lot of people do. They base their happiness on things, on material, on people, and they get attached to all sort of things, either achievements, careers. And the moment that this changes, because it might changes and it actually does changes as life go on, they become unhappy again because they based it on that. And this is a mistake that we do nowadays. It's a mistake that children don't do until they're exposed to society, and this is what I want to talk about. So to be happy in this life, you have to first learn to be unattached. So don't be attached to materials. So don't be attached to your car. Don't be attached to the next new phone or the new whatever Xbox or anything like that. And the moment you're going to be unattached to material is the moment that you're going to be able to live in the present moment and actually be happy with what you have. Because if you go back to our parents' day and age, they were happy with a lot less than we are today. And you would think that us being exposed to all sort of gadget and technology and everything's accessible, and you can go to the grocery store and get pretty much anything you want to eat right there and then. You can even get it delivered to your house nowadays. And with all those options that we have nowadays, everybody, will notice that there's a lot more depression, there's a lot more burnout, people are a lot less happy. And this is because we live in this society that we constantly compare each other to what we have, our material, our job and whatnot. And the moment you think you're satisfied with either your new position or your new car, compare yourself to somebody else who has a bigger car, a better job, and you're always chasing happiness that will never last and that you never be content with, because happiness is not defined by external factors, it is defined by internal factors. And the moment you're going to realize that is the moment that you're going to be able to be happy with your own self and just what is. And when I say what is, I mean just what's surrounding you, where you are, or what you're doing. I talk in another podcast that this year I went through a depression. And going through a depression has taught me a lot of things and the simple joy of life. My brother was bringing me in nature, and I realized that nature is very therapeutic. There's a lot of joy in just walking in the nature and feeling the wind on your skin and hearing the water flow and the little ponds and rivers going around, and just looking at the sun going through the branches and the trees. And that's truly amazing. There's a lot of small joy like that we overlook, and we forget about that because we're so caught up in this rat race, this race of achieving and getting more stuff and getting more children, getting more material and getting more whatever it is, that we forgot. And if you would be a lot more focused on yourself and just open your eyes and be good with the moment, with the present time, you would find a lot of happiness in the smallest thing. And this is what children know to do and forget about. And if you can go back to that state, you're going to be a lot more happy with your life in general and where you're at. So this is one of my tips that I wanted to explain to you on happiness. Another one is you have to live in the present moment. So another problem that people do is they define their happiness either by the past or the future. So if you lived a traumatic event in the past, well, carrying that event with you over and over again and making it the present, even though it's long gone, will make you unhappy because you are dwelling on something that happened that you cannot let go of. Once again, when we talk about happiness, we talk about it comes from inside. So controlling your emotions towards the past and controlling your emotions towards the future. And by that, I mean that some people will live their life always thinking about the future and what they don't have. So for instance, it can be thinking about, oh, well, I live in a condo, I don't have a house. So instead of appreciating the present moment, living in your beautiful condo, you're unhappy once again and you're wishing you had a house. So you're living in the future, which eventually might happen or might not, but it doesn't matter because you're creating this illusion of happiness instead of realizing that you're totally happy right now with what you have. You're totally happy with where you stand. You're totally happy with just yourself. And when you can detach yourself from material, from all those ideas and illusion of society, is when you can become really happy. And it's hard to do, but there's a really good book I've read, and it's called Awareness by Anthony DeMello. It's a book that teaches a lot of concepts and a lot of things in regards to what I'm talking tonight about. And I suggest anybody reads that book. It's truly amazing. And it's life-changing. So if you can grab a copy of it, I'll leave a link at the bottom of this description, and you'll be able to check it out and buy a copy, either Kindle copy in an ebook format or either the paperback or the full book. So that's something I would suggest you check out. So to come back to what I was saying, second tip is don't live in the past or don't live in the future. And there's a quote I've read in this book, and it says that life passes as we are busy making other plans. So if you think about that quote, it resumes what I'm trying to explain to you. Life passes as we are busy making other plans. What does that tell you? It tells you that instead of being in the moment and appreciating life for what it is, we're always constantly thinking about what we don't have, what we wish we would have, what the next person beside us has, and we're never truly living in the moment. Third tip on happiness, get off your phone. Get off those phones that pollute your life, that take so much of your time and consume so much of your energy, always looking at stuff, scrolling through Instagram, Facebook. You're wasting your time. Instead of being in the moment with friends, families, enjoying your current life, you're living in this society filled with ads and publicity and, altered pictures. You're looking at different people and they all look in shape and they all look great, and makes you question your own beauty and all of that. And it's all an illusionary world. It's all tweaked by computers. It's all modified with Photoshop and other programs, image altering programs, and that's not very good at all. And a lot of people, they studied that they get a lot more unhappy or more depressed just because they spend so much more time on their phones than before. So if you can put it aside and be more in the moment with your friends, your spouse, husband, family members, just life in general, put your phone aside and go for a walk in the nature or go for a bicycle ride or anything, and just be in the moment, enjoy, look around, smell, hear, see. You're lucky enough to have all those senses. And if you talk to a blind man, he'll tell you how much he wishes he would have eyes to see what you're able to see. And you're so busy looking at your phone screen that you're actually like a blind people. You walk through life. I see people walking on the street looking at their phones, and they're not even aware of their surroundings. They could get hit by cars. They cross roads and their face is in their phone. So that's a third tip. Put your phones aside once in a while and try to enjoy quality time with the people in your surrounding, and you'll be a lot happier, that's for sure. My last tip for you, the fourth tip, is control your own reaction to things. So by that I mean that if something happens in your environment, most of the time you cannot change that, or you cannot control that either. If it's a boss that you don't like, person you work with, a driver that cuts you through traffic, understand that those things happened, or those people are there and they are who they are, and the reason you're unhappy is because of your own lack of control over your reaction. Instead of just letting it go and not even being bothered by the way a person is, you're trying and you're wishing that this person would be different. And this is kind of foolish, because wishing someone to be different won't fix your problem. This person won't change because you wish they would change and become your idea of what they should be, or your idea of how they should behave. So the best thing you can do is let go of that. Let go of trying to control external factors and people, and control your own emotions towards them. If, someone says something that irritates you, you have to realize that another person probably wouldn't be irritated by that. Or maybe some people from another culture or another community, they wouldn't even be bothered by that comment or what that person did. The reason you're bothered is because you choose to be bothered. You choose to put your focus, your attention, and your energy on that single thing that happened, or that single comment the person said. And I went through Ottawa University once, and I had like a professional course on whatever subject it was. I can't recall. But anyways, I was doing professional development, and the teacher, this guy, would be bothered. You would just carry on his course, and you could be on your phone, you could do whatever, you could leave the class. He was unbothered. And it was truly amazing, because he talks about it during the course, and he says that letting go of things makes it a lot easier. So you could be bothered by all the class and everything that people are doing because he wants them to be the way he would like them to be. Instead, he chooses to control his own reaction towards all those factors that would be annoying to me or you or whoever would teach. And it allows him to carry on a good, solid class and course and focus on his material, which makes the quality of the course a lot better. So I thought that was truly amazing. And when I give you all those tips, it's not something that's easy to do. But what I want you to do is just think about them and try to work on them, and realize that happiness comes from within and from your own control towards certain situation, things, people, what happens around you. So if you can put some efforts into that, you'll be a lot happier. If you look at a drug addict or an alcoholic, they base their happiness on a dopamine rush or an altered state of mind that they get from those substances. So they always go back to them, and they make this new altered state of their brain being on a dopamine high from drugs or not. They think that this is their new happiness. They make it their reality. So now they're always going back to that, thinking that this is happiness. This is their happiness. And if they're not high or they're not drinking, they're unhappy because they labeled that state as their happiness. So it's always our own fault. We label things as happiness, and we forget to realize that happiness is not an external thing, it's within ourselves. So work on that, people, and you'll be a lot better in your life and a lot happier with everything. This is my tips for you for this evening. Thanks for being part of this podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said in the beginning on the intro, we're always striving to better people and offer tips on health and life in general and advice, and do what we can to help people with everything. So thanks for being part of it. And once again, Living Better Podcast, subscribe. Have a good night. Ciao, people. Thank you.